In 2020, Carl Rollyson made an astonishing discovery in the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences archive, an unknown William Faulkner screenplay called Angel's Flight.
It's a kind of a murder mystery, and it's fascinating because it's about a woman who solves a crime that the district attorney thinks has already been solved. And it's all about how she goes about solving that crime and how she puts herself at risk and is almost murdered herself.
For anyone with a passing interest in William Faulkner's life, they might know the author spent years writing scripts in Hollywood. But Professor Emeritus of Journalism at Baruch College, Carl Rollyson, has much more than a passing interest.
He's sort of my first love and my last love.
Rollyson is a biographer who's written dozens of books on subjects including Marilyn Monroe, Rebecca West, Susan Sontag, and of course, William Faulkner. Faulkner remains one of America's most revered storytellers, winning the Pulitzer Prize twice and the Nobel Prize once.
William Faulkner, to some of his friends, a farmer, a woodsman, a hunter. To the world, a writer, the fourth American to receive the Nobel Prize for Excellence in Literature, the highest honor a writer can hope for, personally presented to William Faulkner by King Gustav Adolf in Stockholm, Sweden.
They think he's a great writer, but they don't really find him as a person, they don't think, that interesting. They think Hemingway's much more interesting, man of action, fought wars and things like that. The facets of Faulkner's character, which he didn't particularly want people to know about, are fascinating. They're what keep me going as a biographer. William Faulkner's life is, in many ways, a hidden life, a life that he didn't keep journals and diaries. His letters are not particularly revealing, with a few exceptions.
Rollyson shares that Faulkner, best known for his works about Yoknapatawpha County, Mississippi, spent a total of 4 years in Hollywood.
He saw everything, the nuts and the bolts. You know, he was a friend of Howard Hawks, of Jean Renoir. He saw things and did things that he never talked about. I think the point about Faulkner's screenwriting is that he, by virtue of the fact that he was a hired hand, so to speak, in Hollywood, it meant, for instance, he worked on films like Mildred Pierce. He worked on several women's films in the 40s. I think you see the impact of that kind of screenwriter from the 40s, including a film like, where he did give credit to Have and Have Not. You see it on the creation of characters in the Snopes trilogy, particularly the Linda Snopes character, who really is a kind of feminist in a way that her Mississippi contemporaries don't understand, and that reviewers at the time did not understand. And he learned about that in Hollywood. He also learned that from a younger generation of women in his family.
And after writing 2 comprehensive biographies on Faulkner's life, Rollyson was compelled to write the third and most recent, called William Faulkner Day by Day. The book uses as much archival material as he could find to construct days over the course of his entire life.
And what it allows the reader to do is to look at what happened on every day that I could find out, how that shaped his character, and how he went about doing certain things.
Rollyson has applied this day-by-day technique to other subjects, including Marilyn Monroe and Sylvia Plath, where he explored the last tragic days of her life in a very cold London.
This is going to sound strange to people who don't know what Plath's life is, but she had a visceral, and I mean a visceral, reaction to the cold. There's a passage in Plath's journal in which she talks about the cold coming after her. She was a single mother in the freezing cold, on her own, also medicated, whereas someone's saying, oh, she had a sad life, she was suicidal, blah, blah, blah. If you read her journals and diaries, she was nothing like that. She was manic depressive, I have to say that. But because you're manic depressive doesn't mean you commit suicide.
This attention to the material served him well also with his book on New York cultural icon Susan Sontag, written with Lisa Paddock, who he's married to.
When my wife and I decided to do a biography of Susan Sontag, most people thought it couldn't be done. And the reason it couldn't be done is because she was such a powerhouse in New York. I would say about 3-4 years before we actually got serious about the Sontag biography, I noticed in Publishers Weekly a little notice that Farrar, Straus and Giroux had donated its archives to the New York Public Library. And I thought, Farrar, Straus and Giroux was the only publisher she had ever had. There had to be stuff in there. So we saw all the raw material before it was categorized or cataloged in any fashion. It was a wonderful opportunity that we had. And again, I think it's because no one else would dare to do it.
These insights show how Rollyson is a truly masterful biographer, called by one writer, a biographer's biographer.
I define biography as the story of a whole life. I want to really understand them in the most intimate way I possibly can. So I'm looking for anything.
For Urban U, I'm Craig Thompson.